Hey folks, I'm Ash, and I dug into Little Nightmares 3's demo as a complete newcomer to see if it's worth playing without any of the backstory, and to break down what it does well and where it falls flat on its face. The first thing that stood out to me is just how dark the game is, not thematically, but literally. The recommended settings make most areas so pitch black that you can barely see what you're doing. And that's not spooky atmosphere, that's just annoying. So if you're playing, make sure to bump up the gamma and you'll get all of that creepy atmosphere while actually being able to see all of the weird stuff like whatever this is. While I knew I would like the setting going in, the weird world Little Nightmares 3 takes place in ended up grabbing me even harder than I expected. Coming in fresh without any context just made it even more fascinating. Why is every room built for giants, or are we just impossibly small? Why is the city a barren desert, its people transformed seemingly mid-step into stone husks? And then there's the giant baby doll, all wired up with a bunch of electronics. Why? How? Who even does that? The questions just kept piling up, and honestly, I consider that a very good thing. But it's not just a weird premise, the presentation itself is stellar, and I can definitely see why Little Nightmares grew into a series. Everything is, for the lack of a better word, beautifully horrific. Packed with little details and personality, yet so utterly devoid of any warmth or joy. There are animals pretty much everywhere, yet the world still feels lifeless. I especially love how the game doesn't tell you anything. No dialogue, no text, literally nothing aside from the occasional tutorial prompt. You're left to piece together why reality has become a hellscape purely through environmental clues. A ruined house here, a circle of petrified cultists there, a giant baby rattle embedded into the floor. You know, the usual horror game stuff. But to be serious, it is a genuinely bold choice to say nothing. But Little Nightmares 3 really does make it work. That said, there is a limit to minimalism, a point where leaving things out makes the experience worse rather than more intriguing. For me, that weak spot was exploration. Throughout the demo, I stumbled into a handful of very cool secret-looking paths that led to nothing. No loot, no hidden lore, not even a scrap of environmental storytelling. They were just dead ends. Now don't get me wrong. I don't mind a linear game, but when the zones are deliberately designed to spark curiosity yet give you zero payoff for exploring them, it feels like wasted potential. And that really is a shame because those spots could have been perfect, just absolutely perfect for little bits of extra world building. And while you're doing all of this wandering, the music is mostly absent. And a good thing too, as the silence really helps build an atmosphere of dread and tension. The music only really kicks in for the intense dramatic moments, and otherwise you're just stuck with the low, quiet groans of a collapsing city, and the occasional far, far nastier groans of something you really hope stays hidden. Yet, at the same time, I kinda want to see it, because the game has crafted such a fascinating little nightmare of a world that I am desperate to learn what insanity comes next. Perhaps it'll be a murderous toy car. It sounds like a joke, but honestly, given what I've seen so far, it really wouldn't surprise me. I wish I could be this excited about the gameplay, but unfortunately, it is the game's weakest link. Most obstacles are solved by the simplest actions imaginable. Push this, pull that, climb over, and that's pretty much it. If these were occasional moments, or if they served as a short tutorial, that would be fine. But when the majority of the demo boils down to repeating these one-button chores, the gameplay gets very old very fast. To the point where I genuinely have to ask, is pulling on a wooden beam really what the second player is supposed to be excited about? I certainly hope not, because I can definitely see the potential for co-op puzzles to be one of the game's biggest highlights. Solving problems under pressure, whether with an AI companion or a real one, feels like the kind of thing that could both raise the stakes and really crank up the horror. So here's to hoping that all of the time wasters I've seen so far are just early game fluff, and that the full release will give us much more creative challenges. If that ends up being the case, I'm happy to say that the AI companion seems surprisingly competent. In my experience, they trail behind you just enough to stay out of the way, but step in very quickly whenever you actually need them. For the very simple stuff, you don't even need to tell them what to do. They'll see you struggling with a crate and just rush over to lend you a hand, which I must admit is genuinely nice to see. And then, when things get more complicated, you'll have to give them commands, but again, it is thankfully very quick and very painless. Just call their name and they'll usually figure out what to do without too much fuss. The demo's puzzles were very simple, so this may affect things, but even so, the companion impressed me with how little micromanagement they actually need. I also really like how sometimes they wander off to inspect little details in the environment. Things like a dead bug or a person frozen in a very bizarre pose. So in a funny way, having a second character around actually helped flesh out the world rather than detract from the horror atmosphere as I originally feared. That said, despite its name, Little Nightmares 3 is not actually scary. It is tense and atmospheric, that is true, but it is never actually terrifying. A big reason for this is the enemies. They just look way too normal. The bugs you fight aren't nasty cockroaches or anything like that. They are oversized beetles that, in all honesty, kinda look cool with those oversized pincers. And the gigantic baby that stalks you throughout the whole demo, it is honestly kind of adorable. I mean, sure, it is falling apart and it is actively trying to kill you, but it looks a lot more dopey than it looks dreadful. It's less a nightmare monster and more a curious toddler that just isn't aware of how much damage they're causing. So as long as you don't mind some dark themes and the occasional jump scare, Little Nightmares 3 should be perfectly manageable even if you hate horror games. And since I mentioned the Beatles, we might as well talk about the combat. And I say talk very loosely because there really isn't much to discuss here. Your weapon locks on automatically, so as long as you're vaguely pointing in the right direction when you attack, the game will take care of everything else. It is functional, but a bit clunky. But then again, that clumsiness extends to the general controls as well. Everything in the game has a very slight delay, which is not game-breaking by any means, but it is enough to make your characters feel just a little bit sluggish. What I can say is that you do get used to it fairly quickly. So if you do try the demo and end up slamming face first into walls like I did, don't sweat it. You'll settle into the right rhythm soon enough. So, is Little Nightmares 3 worth playing even if you skip the first two? I would say yes, but with a small caveat. The game stands on its own. You don't need to study the lore to enjoy it, and in a funny way, going in blind actually makes the world feel stranger and more fascinating. The only caveat is the gameplay. It is not terrible by any stretch, but it is very, very forgettable. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter as the presentation is what truly carries the experience. So if you're here for clever puzzles and tight platforming, you'll be disappointed. But if you want to wander through a world that feels like a waking nightmare, then Little Nightmares 3, appropriately enough, really does deliver. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more, make sure to like the video, subscribe, ring the stupid bell, pet your favorite beetle, and do whatever other nonsense you gotta do these days. Thank you for staying to the very end, and I hope you have a lovely day. Bye bye!